Before we get started, here's a big disclaimer. This game tackles some really unnerving topics. So if you've been in situations of trauma, I would not advise playing this game, as this game can get really uncomfortable at many places. And I personally wouldn't want any of you guys in any discomfort just for a video. I will be treating these topics with the utmost decency and seriousness, so no jokes in this one. Now that's been said, let's get this started. Hello everyone, I'm back to go over one of the greatest horror games you've probably never played or heard of, Haunting Ground. In this video, I'm going to go over why it's such a great horror game and how each of its characters affect the player. So for this video, I've brought a special guest, my very own sister. As she's played the game religiously, and as a woman I thought her input might bring more light to the female perspective of this game. So, let's get started. Haunting Ground is a game made by Capcom in 2005 for the PlayStation 2. Unfortunately, despite it being made by Capcom, it just didn't sell well. Mainly because Capcom also released another small title called Resident Evil 4. So obviously due to this, the game got heavily overshadowed by the juggernaut that was Resident Evil 4. And I think that's a damn shame, as this game is absolutely brilliant. And I hope in this video I can get that point across. So let's start off this little review by going over the story. Side note, this is my first time recording directly from my PS2, so apologies if anything doesn't look up to scratch or if anything's too dark. The story follows a young girl called Fiona, waking up after a car crash in an unknown dungeon of sorts. As thunder and lightning scare the man butchering meat, Fiona is free to escape. Before she does, however, she hears a strange noise behind her and tries to investigate. After Fiona's escape, it is now your job to figure out where you are and escape the environment you have found yourself in. So the story in this game is pretty simple. Nothing out of the ordinary when it comes to horror games, that's for certain. Just a side note, as I'm talking about the entire game, there will be heavy spoilers. So if you want to go through this game blind, now's the chance to stop and play for yourself. Anyways, let's get back into it. As you enter the castle, you meet the maid, Daniela.
I've gathered some clothes for you. Wait, don't go. Excuse me, but where are we? And how did I get here? Yes, Master. We will keep her here for a while. I will make sure she stays comfortable.
As you can see, she's very strange. You just know not to trust her. After this cutscene, you walk to the pile of clothes she's prepared for you. And when you do interact with these clothes, this cutscene plays.
With Fiona's outfit, you can sort of tell a man chose it for her, as it highlights some of her assets and fits quite tightly on her. This adds to the fear factor because not only are you in this new environment, you don't know what's going on, and you have some mystery man watching you and choosing how you dress. As you play through this game, you can just feel how vulnerable Fiona is, as just by looking at her outfit, it makes me want to cover up because of how revealing the clothing is.
After getting changed, you can explore the castle a little bit further. Now, as this game is a survival horror, any player would usually click or inspect every corner of the map, but in this game, doing so is always a risk, mainly due to the fact that when Fiona looks at something distressing, she gets scared and it adds to the game's panic meter. As Fiona witnesses distressing scenes or gets hit or startled by a pursuer, the screen flashes a white aura, increasing in intensity as the meter builds. As the meter hits its highest point, Fiona goes into a full panic. As you can see, in this state she runs on her own accord and the screen flashes so you don't know exactly where you're going. And if you bump into too many things, you fall over and you are always one hit away from death. As this happens, the screen goes black and white and the heartbeat gets intensified. I think this system works well as it's just realistic, as I do think any young girl in this situation would react in the exact same way. But it can get annoying in some areas, as the game throws all sorts of obstacles where panicking is impossible to avoid, and in these instances a pursuer is always choreographed to appear. As you continue down the hallway, you see a huge shadow around the corner. This is Debilitas, the gardener of the castle, and the first pursuer of the game. Debilitas is a Latin word meaning weakness or disability. As a character, Debilitas is a towering figure but mentally isn't all there, so you can use this fact against him. For example, he doesn't close doors behind him, so you can just hide behind them and he won't really know where you are. Each pursuer has their own theme as they're chasing you, getting louder and faster when they're hunting you down. Debilitas' theme to me sounds hollow, and sounds like a random assortment of sounds that somehow make a theme, which kinda makes sense for his character, as you'll find out later in the game's story as to why this may be. As Debilitas chases you, he sees it as only a game, as he refers to Fiona as my dolly and often giggles when he hits her. He's childish and doesn't really know any better.
With how Debilitas is, it's hard to not feel sorry for him. As you encounter all the other pursuers, you realise Debilitas is the only redeemable one. In fact, he's the only pursuer you can spare, in which Debilitas is pinned down by a chandelier, and sees Fiona as a higher being and no longer is hostile towards her.
It's okay, Huey. He can't come after us anymore. Good boy.
During the first chase by Debilitas, Fiona hides under the bed, which basically acts like a tutorial for hiding from pursuers. Throughout the game you'll see many different hiding spots. Some hiding spots are better than other ones, so you best pray that you find the best one that works out. Anyways, after Debilitas leaves the room you are able to continue exploring the castle, and during this time you come across luminescents, which are glowing blue orbs that follow Fiona to no end, and these small orbs will screw you over if you're not careful, as when they touch Fiona, she screams and alerts anyone close. Always make sure to close the door behind you, as this is the easiest way to keep them off your trail. The next point of interest is when you hear a voice from a balcony telling you to remove the sheet from something in the room.
Ah, Fiona. I see you finally awakened. There's something that I've wanted to show you for quite some time. Pull away that sheet behind you. Beautiful, isn't it? That, my dear, is what you will become in the future. Go ahead.
this requires no explanation as to what his intentions are, which is actually quite terrifying. Soon after, you meet the person behind the voice, Ricardo. More about him later, but for now he tells Fiona the content of the car crash, saying that she's the heir of the castle and her parents are dead.
So sorry to hear about your accident. Your parents. As Master Ugo and Mistress Ayla are both deceased, you, Miss Fiona, are the sole surviving heir of Belly Castle. Are you in pain, miss? Will you be alright? You've had a long day. Please, rest upstairs. Your bed has been prepared.
And then Fiona faints, which is a response I think all of us would have given the circumstances. As she wakes back up, she hears a dog whimpering as it's tied to a tree outside. As Fiona rescues the dog, she tells it to run and escape, which to me makes Fiona way more likeable, as she just wants the dog to escape, rather than to stick around and help. As the dog walks away, Fiona is back to her reality, that she's alone and in danger once again. As she returns to her room, Debilitas is on her bed and sat down like a child would be, dangling his legs and even waving at Fiona. And as Debilitas approaches Fiona, an unexpected guest intervenes. This is Huey, the white German Shepherd from the intro. He saves Fiona and now she has a loyal companion to help her throughout the game. As you play through the game, Huey helps with puzzles and combat. He also alerts you of any dangers by growling, so be cautious when Huey is doing this as there are many traps in the game. Huey's mechanics are very good for its time, as there's an unseen relationship meter between Fiona and Huey which dictates how much Huey listens. You'll need to make this relationship work, as without Huey you will definitely die. Praising his good work and scolding his ignorance is key for Fiona, as Huey's obedience is vital to progress.
I also love the mechanics with Huey, as he's a very white knight, protecting Fiona when commanded, and there are times when he attacks pursuers without Fiona's input, which puts himself in harm's way to protect Fiona. I'd say the only bad part of this is that at first Huey doesn't listen when you're in danger, which decreases his reliability. So, to add from my brother, you need to make sure that Huey is well trained, as your strongest defense is faulty at first.
And now we're going to go over the rest of the pursuers, as doing the entire story would take a long time, and I do think the pursuers are the highlight to this game. So again, huge spoilers coming up. After Debilitas has been dealt with, either fatally or non-fatally, the next pursuer is Daniela, the maid of the castle. Daniela is highly envious of Fiona, as she isn't complete whereas Fiona is. It comes down to the fact that Daniela does not have an Azoth. Daniela grows incredibly jealous of Fiona, as she does have this quality, so she decides she wants to take it by force.
I am not complete.
Daniela as a pursuer is way smarter than Debilitas. She closes doors behind her, and if Huey is in another room then too bad, you best hope she doesn't find you. Her theme music is the best in the game. It's weird and intimidating when she's running after Fiona. Her theme to me gives off like a robotic vibe, which relates to Daniela as she's bound by her duties and often stops chasing you to do housework.
Miss, it's cleaning time now.
Daniela is by far the best enemy you encounter because of how unhinged and unpredictable she can be. For example, she screams at her own reflection. As she sees herself as incomplete, she just has a full-blown meltdown, which just adds to her fear factor.
Daniela is my favourite pursuer due to her unpredictable nature, as even though she's doing housework, the music is silent and it makes you become more and more wary of her, as you don't know if she's about to strike or not. Daniela is by far the most fleshed out pursuer as she has all these small details about her. Every time you get chased by her, she's often doing something new, and most of the time you can't predict what she's going to do next. But for me, I think her death scene is really memorable, as in this moment she finally feels something, dying with a smile, which in retrospect makes me feel bad for her as despite living, she never felt alive.
After finally dealing with Daniela, soon enough you get approached by Ricardo.
Miss Fiona. Now, if you would please come with me.
No, I don't want to. Please let me be. I want to go home.
But Miss Fiona, you are home. This whole castle is all yours. So, Miss Fiona does not wish to stay at her castle. You miserable wench. You were given the greatest gift of all and you don't even appreciate it. I can't believe the Azoth was wasted on you.
Who in my opinion is the scariest pursuer. Ricardo chases you with a gun, meaning he could one-shot Fiona if you're not careful. He is relentless and is genuinely terrifying, and as seen previously, his intentions are really scary too. His chase music is probably the most startling at first, as it's so quick and fast paced it shoots up the tension up to 11. When you hear this theme, you just know to run as fast as you can. Personally, this is my second favourite chase music. Another scary aspect to his character is that he's insanely smart. At one point in the game he shoots Huey just before you get lost in the woods. So getting chased by someone in unfamiliar territory without your loyal companion puts you in a panic position even as a player, as your one defense is suddenly taken away. After some revelations near a cliffside, Ricardo takes Fiona back to do some physical exams, which is very uncomfortable to watch. If your relationship with Huey is high enough, he saves you from your cell and you escape, but if your relationship is bad, you get the really bad ending. Shortly after escaping, you hear Ricardo's voice. Yep, he's not there, but Huey is on high alert. Turns out Ricardo is now invisible due to the exams he was doing earlier, which in my opinion is the worst part of this game. Despite not using his gun, he is still dangerous as you can't see him. This just makes this part of the game more annoying than anything, which is a shame because you're not scared anymore, you just want to stop playing the game.
I personally find Ricardo more tense compared to the others. In gameplay, he is always a threat due to the fact he has a gun. He has a tendency of shooting the ground to start off Fiona, so sometimes hiding isn't a good idea either. But due to his hood, his vision is somewhat limited, so he may miss a few shots, or just miss where you are entirely. So there's a balance there, but with his invisible phase it is unnecessarily difficult, as the game throws an invisible threat and loads of luminescence at you at once, which gets very annoying and is very unfair, as you will die many times at this part. Despite playing this game for years, I still dread this section, as the difficulty spike is ridiculous. Ricardo can just appear and disappear randomly, seemingly toying with Fiona, which gets old very fast. The only saving grace of this part is the fact you get to knock Ricardo off the tower you're fighting on.
After you deal with Ricardo, you move on to the final pursuer of the game, Lorenzo, who is this old man who crawls around shrieking Fiona's name.
Fiona, fate brought you back to me, and now you are mine. All mine!
At first you see no danger, he's easily dealt with and you just kill him numerous times. He's kinda like a fly on the wall, except you need to swat him with an explosion. And when that doesn't work, you literally throw him into a crusher where he turns into paste. With Lorenzo's old variation, you spend most of your time just murking him. So you start thinking that this home stretch is going to be really easy, but unfortunately that's not the case. Because Lorenzo took Ricardo's life essence, he now de-ages and is now young again.
Come to me, Fiona. I will now extract the Azoth latent in you, in order to realize the everlasting life of Oriona's belly.
Young Lorenzo is a beast. He can teleport, cause the floor to quake, knocking Fiona over. He can just explode the ground to the same effect. This phase of Lorenzo is ridiculously powerful, meaning you have to stay on your toes at all times. However, his theme stays the same whether he's young or old, which to me gives off two distinct feelings. In his old phase, it sounds like a tank with a faulty engine, meaning he is powerful but is missing a key component so he's not as scary. But when he's young, his setbacks are non-existent, which makes the theme change in terms of feeling, as you need to run because this tank got a fresh set of assets.
Old Lorenzo is a very small portion in this section. As mentioned, you just wreck his ass at every corner. So to me, he's kind of like a mini boss in that regard, warming you up for an even greater threat that is young Lorenzo. With young Lorenzo, I find him incredibly tense as he could just teleport right next to you. And when Huey protects Fiona, he has a high chance of retaliating against him. So running away is usually the better option. Another perk of his is that all the collectible items that affect pursuers usually, like the throwables, have little to no effect on him, which limits your options. And this is why he's my second favourite pursuer, as he really tests your skills.
After you deal with Lorenzo by throwing him in lava Anakin style, he's still not done. As the building is crumbling, he's on the chase again, but as the Lord of Fire variation. Which is another dumb move, as a one hit kills you and you have to time crouching so Fiona doesn't fly around the screen. Then, a statue falls on Fiona and you're stuck button mashing as Lorenzo's closing in. Sure, it's tense at first, but when you die over and over, it gets tedious very quickly.
In this final stretch, I find this section to be very stressful, as you just don't know what to focus on. Learning the crouch timing straight away is vital. If you don't, you're going to retry this part numerous times, as Huey cannot help you with Lorenzo or even the statue. Speaking of the statue, the game gives you no indication on what button to actually press. So you just have to wing it and press every button, which works with the theme of panic, but I don't think breaking your controller is worth that. After you've done that, Lorenzo finally dies. Fiona is finally out of danger.
So with that, all the pursuers are concluded. As you can see, in this game they really took the time to make them more unique by design and gameplay, with each pursuer requiring a different approach. As a horror game, it's genuinely terrifying as many of the pursuers can relate to people in real life. And when they do catch and kill Fiona, the death scenes are horrifying as the screen goes red and black, with just the audio of what they're doing to you, which leaves the deaths to your own imagination, which has a very scary impact. During these death scenes you see the quote "Acta est fabula", which roughly translates to "the story is over". This game has a lot of Latin in it, so if you're a person with a bit of Latin knowledge, you can kind of piece together some of the story. The game is super memorable too. Many scenes have stuck with me from this game, which for a horror game takes a lot of skill. It's not your jump scare fest, it's simply a game that works hard to maintain its atmosphere. From the ambience to the silence, the game knows what it's doing.
For me, this game is kind of like superglue, as it sticks with you and it's hard to forget. Despite its pros and cons, I truly love and enjoy this game, as I often replay this game every once in a while for the thrill. As a horror game, I think as a woman it's scarier as I've met similar types of people in my life. Men wanting to use me as an object, or a jealous woman wanting to knock me down. It's relatable. Sure, the pursuers are ramped up to ridiculous stakes, but the fact that I can relate their personalities to real life situations is the scariest part of all.
When you beat the game you can get a few unlockables, including hard mode and the special room. The special room allows you to replay cutscenes, see artworks, etc. You know, all the bonus content. Hard mode is self-explanatory, and in the hard mode each pursuer is more dangerous, hits harder, and has a recolour on their outfit. Heartbreakingly, Huey can die if he takes too much damage. So, to make your lives easier if you do plan on taking this challenge, here's a few tips and secret items to help you out.
When using the plate key typewriter, there are a few specific words you can write to get some fancy items. For the rocking chair room, there is a little chest, and the plate key you need to write is Magnus, which gives you the jade choker and the Inquisitor earrings. In the game there are numerous holes in the wall that you can go into. Pursuers cannot enter these rooms. In this room you can do a medallion minigame that can give you some good or bad items. Within these rooms there's a plate key machine where you can put in these words to get items. Powder, Adamas, Morgan, Alchemia. In the beginning, where you move the rock golem, you can put meth instead and have it crumble into an item. When the rock golem is in the fire maze, you can put Saltatio within it, and the results are pretty interesting. When a pursuer is on the chase, have Huey wait and have him charge from behind. Pursuers will never retaliate, and you can have Huey hold on for more damage. This avoids Huey taking too much damage himself. So if you are planning on playing this on hard mode, I do wish you luck, and I hope these tips can help you out.
As mentioned before, this is one of the best horror games I've ever played, but it's a real shame that not a lot of people have actually played it. It has amazing ambience, theme music, and it's genuinely scary today. Personally, I think this game deserves a remaster, not a remake, as remakes tend to remove what makes the original great in the first place. This game is rare to come by and it's a damn shame. Personally, I'd go for an emulator rather than a physical copy as it gets real expensive real quick. I think that's it for now. A huge thank you to my sister for helping me out with this one, and thank you for watching. I do hope you guys give this game a try, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao for now.